Mr. Blowhigh. Hey, Spuds, how's it going? It's Jamie. Welcome back to another video. First one, I don't know, but welcome either way. I'm very glad to have you here for this wonderful, marvelous, spectacularly good, yay, edition of trans memes. I'm sorry, that totally got away with me. I was like, let's do 3 lovely little adjectives to sum up trans memes, and I messed it up. But yes, we're here for the memes of the transes, the feel-good, the relatable, the lovely ones, not the anti-trans. No, they are not having space in this video, although I don't know, actually. They may pop up, but in a more positive way. Not that they'd be positive. You know what I mean? Let's get on with it. The Powerpuff Girls. Has somebody gone, oh, let's take the Powerpuff Girls and based on their colouring of their outfit and their eyes and their hair, make a flag out of them. So you have, yes, the 3 sexualities. A romantic, lesbian, Argentina. What are you? Are you a romantic? Are you a lesbian? Or are you Argentina? Let me know. So that's what the A stands for. Be gay, do crimes. No, we don't do that. Be trans, be crime. Oh, God. It's funny, but it's also sad. Oh no. And also some places be gay, be crime. But this is why we still have pride. Okay? This is why we still talk about LGBTQ plus rights. My mum, stop taking hormones. Now she's very, very mad about the hormones. Meet little cat, estrogen. What? Take the estrogen. Honestly, it's one of my favorite things in the world to see accepting, supportive parents. But then equally, on the other hand, very shitty and upsetting to hear about unaccepting parents. If you are wanting to be a parent and you are not willing to love your child, regardless of whether they are LGBTQ plus or disabled or choose their own path in life, then you are not ready to be a parent. Please do not have a child with some expectation that they must be some cis straight lawyer. I don't know. They are their own independent person. They are not necessarily going to be the same as you or have the same identity as you. And I just think people who have kids and are like,
oh, but I won't love my kid if they're trans.
Don't have kids. Seriously. Bigots need to stop having children. Yesterday, a 69-year-old man known as Robert his entire life walked out on a balcony and self-identified as Leo. The entire world now calls him Leo, without question. See how easy it is to accept and respect what an individual identifies as? Oh, and he was wearing a dress. It's the same thing with several other elements, like puberty blockers is another example, and names and gender-affirming care and things like that. Trans people are held to a different standard. If people are transphobic, it's fine to switch genders for an animal if they initially thought that somebody's cat was a girl but it's a boy. Everybody always thinks all cats are girls for some reason and that all dogs are boys. Yeah, I have 2 boy cats. They get misgendered a lot. They don't care. But you know what? When someone's talking about my cat and they're like, oh, she's so pretty. And I'm like, oh yeah, he's a ragdoll. Nobody is like, oh, I just cannot switch. No, your cat is a girl to me. I cannot change the pronouns. No, they instantly switch. The cis person changes their name either through marriage or divorce or just wanting to change either their first or last name or both. Nobody has an issue. People suddenly start having issues with certain healthcare things like puberty blockers and name changes and certain social things when it is a trans person asking for that same respect. Bigots will gladly give a cis person. The Pope changes his name. It's all good. Yeah, sure. We'll call you Leo now. We have no issues. A trans person changes their name.
Oh my goodness. What a horrifying thing to happen. How will I ever get used to this? It is so difficult.
It's not. You're just not comfortable with trans people. I've discovered the trans agenda. It just says to be free. The trans agenda is something like the gay agenda was a thing. It's like people, bigots, have scared themselves and each other in their heads. Whether they actually believe this or not, I don't know. But what they seem to be spouting is that the trans agenda is to manipulate the children and take over women's rights and women's sports and women's spaces and all of this stuff and demand attention all the time as trans people, when really the trans agenda is literally just, please could I have access to gender affirming healthcare? Please could I have the ability to live my life and be respected as my gender as any cis person is allowed to do? It is that simple. Literally just to live our lives. That's it. And people are getting their underwear in a twist over it for no reason. I think it's because they're bored. Clearly there's not enough people taking up knitting anymore. Graham Lynham fails at trying to stay relevant. Transphobes, when a trans woman wears t-shirts, isn't really into makeup, etc. Couldn't you at least try? Yeah.
Oh, you're not trans enough? No, you don't look feminine enough to be a trans woman.
Transphobes, when a trans woman likes dresses, makeup, etc. Oh, so this is what you think a woman is. Make it make sense. Do you want us naked or what? Well, they are a obsessed with our bodies, so who knows? Again, it's this hypocrisy. It's giving trans people impossible expectations to live up to, impossible scenarios, impossible things. It's like rock and a hard place. It's like,
Oh, you're trying too hard to conform to stereotypical femininity? Well, no, you're just making a caricature of what a woman is. Oh, you're not trying hard enough? Oh, you're not really a woman.
well, they say you're not really a woman regardless to trans women, don't they? Because they're assholes. I have heard bigots be like,
Oh, well, like, you could have at least tried to look like a woman.
and then literally heard bigots also say,
Oh, these trans people think that all a woman is a dress and lipstick. Oh, that's not right.
literally can't win. Trans people cannot win because transphobes have created impossible scenarios that trans people need to fit into in order to be like valid, but they don't actually exist. There's no scenario in a transphobe's head where a trans person would be valid and deserving of respect. They've just gone, well, if you're this, no, and if you're that, no. And it's like, well, there's no other option, so it's just no then. Thanks. I just want to say trans people are beautiful. We are never going to stop existing. I'm never going to stop being trans. A letter on a passport can't change that. Hunter Schafer, who, yes, because in the whole shittery in the US with passports, Hunter Schafer was given a passport with an M on it. That makes sense. But it's true, they can bring in the legislation, but it doesn't stop the fact of trans people's existence and trans people being who they are and their identity. The world is very bizarre right now. Oh, Pedro Pascal. Who doesn't love Pedro Pascal? I can't think of anything more vile and small and pathetic than terrorizing the smallest, most vulnerable community of people who want nothing from you except the right to exist. I can't remember if this was specifically about JK Rowling or just transphobes in general, but Pedro Pascal has been very vocal on trans rights. He has a trans sibling, and I think it's important. Sometimes when celebrities say things or do fundraisers or wear t-shirts on red carpets, it can be immediately labeled as nothing but performative and useless. But by sharing words like this, what we saw happen is by JK Rowling growing in confidence and sharing her transphobic views publicly, that made other people grow in confidence. That incentivized people. She was someone that people idolized and looked up to, and even if they had no inclination of being transphobic prior, if their only knowledge of trans people was from this woman that they idolized entirely, you can see why they maybe started to buy into that viewpoint. It's still a shame that you didn't want to bother to do your own research, but never mind. And I think it's so important to have a counter to that voice. The power of people with huge platforms and huge followings and huge numbers of people who will literally listen to whatever they say, the power of somebody like that being anti-trans has caused a lot of damage and has been used in areas that go far beyond just social media and have reached into political spheres as well and been very harmful. And in order to counter that, trans voices right now are not loud enough. We're not given the platform. We're not a big enough community. Like, come on. It's cis allies, and particularly cis allies with big public platforms, that really need to be speaking out in support of the trans community. So when I see people like Pedro Pascal and Nicola Coughlan speaking out, I'm like, thank you. Because we need the people who are heavily influenced by seeing the words of celebrities they look up to actually have an accurate introduction to the trans community and not just see bigotry. When people say that being trans is just a way of getting attention, then why the did I stay in the closet for so long? I mean, so many people wait for so long. That is really true. But I don't want attention. 1 and 1 makes 2. Like, being trans typically brings very negative attention. And particularly right now. Like, why would somebody think like, oh yeah, now looks like a wonderful time for me to just pretend to be trans or come out as trans even though I'm not and just kid myself into thinking it because I want the attention. The attention is not good. I don't know why this is a thing. Like, the very bigots who are actually making it incredibly difficult to be trans and come out as trans nowadays are the ones saying people are only doing it for attention. Would you want the kind of attention that you're giving trans people? Transmasc bingo. Are we ready? Okay. Dressed a little too femininely to conform to gender roles. I don't do that one. Often wears dark colours. I really used to until I had 2 fluffy cats, but I do much prefer dark colours. Watches South Park? No. Was a tomboy growing up? Yes. Is alt/goth/punk/emo? No, but I did have an emo phase. Listens to metal, rock, or EDM? No. People assume you're younger. That is definitely something that happened up until about 6 or 7 years ago. Chose the male role in films/plays. Yes. I always auditioned for The Prince. Had top surgery. Yes. Watched Breaking Bad. Yes. But why? Why is that on Transmasc bingo? Has a tattoo or tattoos. Yes. That is not one. That just says free space. Has piercings. Yes. Owns a dysphoria hoodie. I own many hoodies just generally, but I definitely owned a dysphoria hoodie when it was something everything I needed. Owns a band t-shirt. Yes. Plays video games. Yes. Binds. No, see, this means you could not ever get a full bingo card because there's had top surgery and binds all on the same one. Relates to male characters. Wanted to date someone as a guy. I mean, yeah, yes. Is currently on T, yes. Often dressed androgynously before coming out. Yeah, hung out with mostly boys growing up. Absolutely. Oh my God. I used to play football and then they kicked me off the boys team when I was 7. Even though I was always very tall growing up. I'm 6'1" now. I was always incredibly tall. And literally when I was 7 years old, I was the biggest player on the team. And they kicked me off because they're like, the boys are gonna be too rough for you. Shut up. No, they're not. Half of them are over a head smaller than me and weak as shit. Like, they're not tougher. That it was really rude. So rude. I was very sad. But at school on the playground, I remember we had this exercise in year 3, so I would have been probably also 7, and it was a big printout piece of paper that was laminated with the school playground map on it, and we each were given a dot. I was given a pink dot because the girls were given pink and the boys were given blue, and then we had to place our dot on the playground where we played most, and there were like little cliques, and it was very much like boy girl split, not enforced by the school. It was like a mixed school, but the friendship groups were very much boy girl split, and all the boys would play on like the football areas and stuff like that, and then there was a couple pockets where like there were like little groups of girls, and then there were just like multiple big groups of boys who played the various different sports, and like I was the only pink dot in this sea of blue on the football area of the playground. Yeah. And then I saw the teacher who did that exercise, like, I don't know, it was just before I came out, so probably when I was like 15 or something, and she literally still had it and she spoke to me about it. Yeah, very interesting. So yes, hung out with mostly boys growing up. I didn't have a single friend who was a girl until I was like quite a bit older, and even then it was a mixed group. I've never been friends exclusively with girls. Dyed hair, not anymore, but I used to. What's that? Didn't think you could be trans for the longest time because you didn't think it could apply to you. I mean, I didn't know what it meant for the longest time, and then when I knew what it meant, I was like, oh my God, yes. But there was also such a lot of thinking of like, no, I'm not trans. That's so uncommon. Nobody's trans. I'm trans. And there was a lot of that. What did you fill in? Tell me. Depends on how many you filled in. Tell me which ones you didn't get and tell me which ones you did get. I'm interested. Okay, I think I have thought of a way to explain it that everyone will understand. Biological sex is hardware and gender is software. That does make sense. Some people are born with hardware and software that do not match. The software cannot be changed. You cannot edit it, you cannot overwrite it, you cannot even reboot it. It is permanent, yes. But you can change the hardware with things like surgery and hormone replacement. Trans people are just asking to be allowed to upgrade their hardware components to match their operating system. I really like this. It's such a nerdy way of describing it, but it works very well. You'll definitely have some people who are like, oh, but you can upgrade software, you can change it. That is not the point. We're saying in this scenario, the software is unchangeable, okay? Sorry, trans people, we can always tell. Short Jan. Oh, a picture of cis celebrity. Cheekbones, Adam Applemuch, clearly trans. They say that and then turns out to be a cis woman, and they're normally thinking that celebrities are trans women because this is very much something like aimed towards women and aimed at femininity, and
Meaning like women have to uphold these ideals of femininity.
it's exhausting. Dead naming trans folks when you don't agree with them is always transphobic. It is very transphobic. I have literally had this happen in my real life with someone who I thought was accepting, and I'm like, well, no, because you might not be through and through transphobic and like a right dick to every trans person, but if you are willing to stoop that low as a way of getting back at somebody, but also the only way you could get back at somebody, so it really shows the position you're in, asshole, then there must be some level of non-acceptance going on there, or some level of like, I know this is wrong, I know how hurtful this is, and I'm gonna do it anyway. It's just really dicky. Like deliberately dead naming a trans person when you disagree with them on something, or you don't like them, or you have a falling out, it's just awful. Very pathetic. Very telling of what a person is like. Your transphobia is bad and you should feel bad. I can't add to that. That's perfect. Your transphobia is bad and you should feel really guilty about it. Honey, if you oppose trans rights, you'd better prepare for trans wrongs. What would you prefer, trans rights or trans wrongs? I think in the eyes of big bigots though. Trans is just wrong. So I agree with this. I just don't know how much it would mean to someone who's transphobe. None of the Amelia Perez winners have mentioned the trans community on stage at the Oscars. Amelia Perez. That was a big thing a few months ago. I was going to make a video about it, and I even made like the little intro, and then I was going to kind of vlog myself watching the film and give my opinion on it. And then I just couldn't be bothered. I didn't want to give it a watch. I was not interested. Ended up finding out the entire plot and what happened just through stuff coming up online. And then I saw stuff like this, and it's like, wow, go off, make a movie about a trans woman that the whole trans community is like, this isn't great. And then literally don't even acknowledge the trans community when getting an Oscar for a movie about a trans woman. I don't even know what to describe that as. I was going to say that is performative, which it might be in some way of being like,
Let's make like a woke movie because people will like that.
and then not actually having the backbone to carry on supporting it other than being here, let's shove a trans woman in this role about a trans woman. Done. We're good. Trump baffles with bizarre comment about transgender mice in Congress. Oh, yeah. Donald Trump baffled viewers of his congressional address when he discussed the $8 million he said he and the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, had found for making mice transgender. I can't believe this needs to be said. Transgenic mice are not transgender mice. They are so obsessed. I guess like the one positive thing, trans people, remember, we as a community, and probably some of us individually, are living rent-free in the brains of transphobes and driving them absolutely bananas about it because of how much they've internalized this hatred and this anger towards us. We're just floating about in their brain. We're living our lives and they're just like, oh, trans people, and turning everything into an issue about trans people. It just sounds exhausting. Carry on, Karen. What trans people are being faced with in this world is completely unfair, wrong, and there's like violence that's taking place on a daily basis in their lives, and I think that we all need to support trans people and each other to know that they deserve to be supported and loved and protected and lifted up. Lady Gaga, always a very vocal trans ally. Wonderful. Sarah McBride fires back at Republican congressman who misgendered her with a "thank you, Madam Chair." I remember this. I think I reacted to this recently in a trans TikTok video. The congressman misgendered Sarah McBride and she just so smoothly was like, "Thank you, Madam Chair," and then like started talking. I feel like she stood up for herself really well and she handled it and she was just getting on with what she wanted to do. But there was another guy there who was like, excuse me, Congressman, don't misgender here, and tried to make him like be respectful towards Sarah McBride, and he couldn't, and they like adjourned what was going on. I was like, wow, the brain rot goes deep. Breaking: a court overturned Ohio's ban on gender affirming care for transgender youth. This is a critical victory for trans rights. This was a little while ago. I hope this still, I don't know how the American like court system and the bills and everything work. I hope this is still happening. There has been relatively not good news happening recently. Let's not get into it now. But there are these little wins. Like there are courts and judges who are like no to like really transphobic stuff, and that's good to see. There's some school kids on the table next to us in McDonald's practicing their friends' new they them pronouns. Oh, if we practice now, then think how happy they'll be on Monday at school. My heart. That's so cute. That's such a wholesome interaction to be happening, because I think there's such a perception of like, oh, kids, oh, they're horrible to each other. But not always. Sometimes they're lovely. This is very sweet, and this absolutely will make their friend incredibly happy and be very meaningful. People can be lovely sometimes. Trans women equal women. I think that depends on... No, that wasn't a question. That was not a question.
I think that depends on what you're...
No. That wasn't a question.
I feel like Miranda Priestley would definitely not be a transphobe. Although I don't think Andy would either. I don't think any of them would be. No, I just really like The Devil Wears Prada, so none of them can be transphobic. Talking of Pedro Pascal earlier, and I mentioned Nicola Coughlan, who's raised so much money for the trans organisation Not a Phase, and has been and continues to be speaking out in support of the trans community. And when there was an article about this is a new low for JK Rowling, the notoriously turfy author celebrated trans women losing their right rights in the UK with a cigar. Really bizarre image. I even saw some people who do kind of technically support her, like online. They're like,
oh no, you know, I respect JK Rowling, I respect her views, but this is not the look. Like,
even some of the bigots were shocked by how she reacted and by her post. And that says a lot. But Nicola Coughlan shared that, saying, keep your new Harry Potter, lads, wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. And honestly, I think everybody involved in it really needs to have a little think about what the hell they are doing. This does not need to happen. This just feels like a desperate attempt to stay relevant, to have a do-over because none of the old cast agree with her, or at least none of the main old cast agree with her. I don't know if that's what's happening, but it definitely feels like a desperate attempt of like more Harry Potter. There doesn't need to be more. And if you love it as a franchise, read the books you have, watch the movies that you own or that are on a streaming service that you already pay for, buy secondhand from charity shops. I was looking in a bunch today, there was Harry Potter stuff. There is no reason to buy new. Buy from like independent people on like Etsy and shit. You don't need to put money in JK Rowling's pockets because we all know what she does with it, donating £70,000 towards a Supreme Court case in the UK that ended up stripping away the rights of trans people and is an ongoing issue, and we still don't know how it's going to impact the day-to-day lives of trans people. There is actually a consultation happening with the EHRC, which is the Equality Human Rights Commission in the UK, who set out very problematic guidance about banning trans people from the correct toilets, but then going one step further to be like, it would also be okay in some circumstances to just ban trans people from any gendered public facility in public places and in places like workplaces and schools. It is absolutely shit. But there is a consultation going on right now to let the EHRC know that this guidance cannot become law. It is problematic, it is harmful, it is not enforceable, it will harm cis women and trans people alike. I will leave a link in the description box if you want to go fill that out. I've done so myself, but it is honestly so important to do as much as we can to make sure that that guidance does not become law. So yes, please stop giving money to JK Rowling. It's not necessary. When you just backtrack 50 years of feminism and enforce patriarchal beliefs for women's rights, yeah, that's what all the TERFs are celebrating outside of the Supreme Court, because we're already seeing cis women being impacted by that decision, because now anyone's femininity is under scrutiny. Any woman is going to be overly scrutinized over whether she is feminine enough or not to be in a woman's space. And you're not going to be able to tell if a woman is trans or cis. It's all just going to be people going off stereotypes and their gut and be like,
you're a trans woman.
And that's going to harm trans women and cis women. It is dumb. And the cis women celebrating it looks so ridiculous. Anyway, trans rights are human rights. Even Sonic the Hedgehog says so. I do not support all gay men. Some of you bitches are very transphobic. It is true. LGBTQ plus people as a whole are much more likely to be trans supportive, with cis lesbians actually being the most trans inclusive group of people within society. Cis straight people are less likely to be supportive of trans people, but there are a good chunk of gay cis men who are transphobic. It's like, what are you doing? It's giving very pick me. It's giving very, hey, don't eat my face, leopards. They will. One day. It's coming. Pedro Pascal attends the Thunderbolts UK special screening. He wore this on, I think it was a yellow carpet, but you know, like the red carpet. Protect the Dolls, which is a very trans inclusive t-shirt aimed at helping the trans community and trans women specifically. Prefacing this next post with, it is satire. Would you tell us about a time that you were personally victimized by a trans person? JK Rowling. Yes. I remember it like it was yesterday. You see, I was advocating for their total annihilation, and then a few of them said some mean words to me on the internet. How will I ever cope? Oh my god. That is literally it. All the people who are like,
Yeah, but stop being so mean to her.
I am not about violence and threats. I don't think it's productive. However, this is literally somebody who is campaigning to take away the rights of a marginalized group. You're looking at the wrong thing. Sure, let's not send horrible, nasty messages to anybody. At the same time, let's recognize and be like, we can say, hey, let's not say some of these things to anyone in society, and let's call things out properly. But they still deserve to be called out. Just because some people are going about it in what some would deem an incorrect way, and I personally would not do, it doesn't mean that the person receiving those negative comments is absolved of their shittery. People say some mean words to you on the internet, and it's like, oh,
Help me, I'm the victim here.
no, you're not. No, you're not. That sums up this, I was going to say weeks, but we don't do this weekly. That sums up this year, maybe so far. This quarters, this episode of Trans Memes. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know how much of the Transmasc bingo card you filled out if you are a Transmasc. If you did like this video, you can think about giving it a thumbs up and subscribing if you want to, but no pressure. I do also have a Patreon, which is lovely because the internet can be a really tough space space to work on as a trans creator. So if you did want to go support me over there, you can, but there is absolutely no pressure to. You can see some names going up the screen of some of my Patreons right now. And I also want to give a big shout out and thank you to my top tier Patreons: Night Soul, Sugar Joe, Jill B, Elden K, Nesta, The Third Hatman, Jaden Cricket, Max Makes Mods, River Champagne Mon, Rai Loves Rory, Chloe, Ioana Balash, TNS Mum, Sally Drew, Randy, Albar, Marv Mallow, Rachel Raptor, Jesse Entwistle, and Gosco. Thank you so much. Thank you so much again. And yeah, as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Much love. Bye.